but I was incapable of even speaking in a room, much less other people. I grew up with, I have my twin sister, and somebody said to me years later when we grew up, she said, I always wondered what you'd have to say because your sister would never shut up and you would never speak. And that's just the way it has went our entire life. She's very sociable. I'm not. She wore glasses. She wore pink glasses, and I didn't. She was shorter. I was taller. She was smaller. I was big boned, which I hate that fucking word. But anyways, so I really compared us probably more than I thought everybody else compared us, and that already gave me a complex. We grew up in a nice Italian home. Like, we went to church on Sunday because we had to. We got our confirmation or our communion, whatever the fuck it's called. And we grew up with our parents. Let me back up. Were addicts. She used throughout her pregnancy. We were born, and 5 years after we grew up, we were 5 years old. They got clean. We have no recollection of it. All we knew is that we were living with our family. We weren't subject to drugs and alcohol growing up. We were actually like NA babies, like running around the rooms. We had really good stuff, but I couldn't help but compare myself on a constant basis to my sister. I was very different, so I acted out. My first drug of choice was anger. I literally held on to anger because it made me feel good. I didn't even have to say anything, and you look at my face and go the other way. And asked me to go to Tampa to her apartment to pick something up or something, and so we went there, and I heard my sister answer the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning screaming, saying, what happened? So something with our mom, and we needed to get to Aventura Hospital really fast. So that's what we did. And when we got there, we found out that she was already brain dead, and there was just like no, sign of life really, other than the machines pumping her. And so, to that point, we had never experienced any kind of traumatic loss like that. And although I had Christina was always mommy's girl and I was always daddy's girl. So, I had a very difficult relationship. And now that I'm an adult, I can tell you it's because we were just alike. When I listened to this woman who spoke at conventions, speak about herself, it's like looking in the mirror. There's nothing different. Like, the drugs can be different, the alcohol could be different, the situations could be different, but the feelings are the same. Mm-hmm. And that goes for everybody in this room. Like, no matter how old you are or how young you are or what drugs you did, like, it doesn't matter. What brought you here is like the despair and the loneliness and that void that, like, I don't know if you have it, but for me, it's like nothing can fill it. I could go shopping. My sister has a tendency to try when I'm like, she wants me to do good, to like shower me with the best things and everything like that to make me feel what she thinks I am, like beautiful, or she wants me to feel so special. And like nothing fills that for me except God in this program, and other addicts. You know, at the end of the day, like the feelings are the same. So I remember sitting in the hospital. So like when they told us this, like it felt like a train hit us. Like, you know, it was just a pain that you can't even imagine, or that I'm sure everybody is here has experienced. But thank God we have each other. You know, I remember sitting on the floor in the hospital, wanting, because my mom, I was talking about, she had, because she was a part of this fellowship, and any life she touched, she affected. It's just what it was. And now, like I said, I realize as I'm getting older, like, we have no boundaries when it comes to love. We, like, I'm sure, like, you've experienced, like, everybody says, like, how much they love her. Yeah, because we have no boundaries. Once we meet you, you're family. Either you really don't like us at all, or you fucking love us, and we're ready to ride and die for you, and that's it. You know, like, there's no in between. And, you know,
that's why I'm not your therapist. That's why everyone's like, why aren't you a therapist? Because
she's ride or die for me.
Yeah, I said,
I'm telling you, like,
yeah,
listen,
I can't be your therapist.
She got herself suspended somewhere before over clients. Like, you know, she's put herself in some fucked up situations, and I get it because I do the same thing, and it's probably what ultimately took me out after having some clean time. So, like, but those are the lessons I have to learn from, you know. You know, so I remember sitting in the hospital, like there was this room full of people and this, like, all these recovering addicts that were just devastated. And I remember sitting with my sister, like sitting in the corner, just crying so hard, like we couldn't even breathe. So a few days later, she died. And a few days later, we turned 22. Soon after, I had a child. I had went to jail for the first time, but like that never ends. I got pregnant. My sister moved home because she wanted this child. Like this child was the first happiness that our family could feel. Like the joy Christopher brought to the table was just like something that you couldn't even describe. I thought I better never have another child because I'll never love the child the same. And that's a whole nother story. But you know, Christopher. I was using cocaine and whatever, but when I had Christopher around that time, like my cocaine use had gotten out of control, but when I had Christopher, like right around that time, the pill mills down here got big, and I've always struggled with uncomfortable pains in my back, but if I let you tell, I have herniated this and this, that, and forget about it. Like before I knew it, I was at like every pain doctor seeing, like, you're supposed to see one a month, I was seeing like 12. But in the beginning, it was only a couple, and I did it because I thought, oh my God, this feeling, first of all, like nobody knows I'm high. It gave me energy. I could take care of my kid. You know, I don't have my sister and my dad crawling all over me, because when I'm on cocaine, it's like I'm a fucking nut job. Everything around me is fucking chaos, and all the people around me are chaos. So I found like this drug that really helped me, like, kind of almost like come together. I thought it was the best thing in the world. And it was when you take 2 a day. But when I take 60 a day and I'm getting so sick from vomiting, you know, from not having enough, and, you know, it brought me to a whole nother level. I'd be passed out at my sister's house. It was the scene that I'm sure a lot of people that ever been on pain medication has, because then I, got to put Xanax and Somas with it or whatever the case may be. That brought me to jail quite a few times. And in the beginning, I remember, like, this is before, like, they had the phone visitations. I remember sitting in jail thinking, it's like 5 days I'm in jail. Like, my sister hasn't come to get me. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is probably like my 4th run-in. And they call me down for visitation. I go down and, they have the phones in the glass. And I see my sister and my dad. I'm like, why haven't you come to get me? Like, who knows why they didn't come to get me. But soon after, I got shipped to Fort Lauderdale Hospital with many Baker Acts. And life went on like that for a while. I ran with my son because I didn't want him taken. It was the only joy that made me, and it was an awful thing to do. I had him in the backseat. I would take my son to Orlando, bitch, you couldn't get my baby. Like, everybody was trying to take my son. Like, this is the only thing that I had that made me feel like a human. Everything else was out the window. Respect, values, morals, they were gone. Not to the point that it got, though. I had never tricked. I had never, I've always been a decent thief. But, it goes based on the times you go to jail. It's like, right? I wasn't going to jail for that then.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember what I was going to jail for then, but, so I would do that, and I always had, a car at that point and everything. But they decided that, I remember my son got a staph infection in his knee, and I didn't properly take care of it, and so DCF went to get involved, and so I had to go somewhere with my child. So they told me if I didn't want my child taken, I had to go to Susan B. Anthony. And so I went there, and the good addict that I am, I get the therapist, and I told her, I start paying her off to get me my passes, and to now she's going to the doctor with me, and now we're selling dope together. And it was after I got thrown out of there a couple times, it was sad. But so years later, Christina had my son because now he has to go to school and everything, and now I'm being incarcerated for bigger things, for violation of probation, so now I'm stuck there. So there's no more bonds at this point. And my baby's father took me to court. And I had to go in handcuffs and shackles to sit across from somebody who's no better than me, who did just as much drugs as me, but cleaned his act up somehow a little bit. And, whatever. And the judge didn't want to hear it. And they removed Christopher from my sister's house because he had a right. And
there's no right. We don't have any rights in Florida.
Right.
Only parents have the rights.
The judge did tell me when I got out that I would be able to go and pick him up for the weekend or whatever, which I tried to do. Nobody answered the door, and make a long story short, they had put him on a plane to Trinidad. The judge did make them bring him back, and that automatically gave me back my 50-50. I'm really not sure, there was no relapse because I was never in recovery. I would try to clean up my act and go home to my sister's house. I'm really good at cleaning. I'm really good at doing the kids' homework for them. I'm really good at, because I have no boundaries, especially with them.
I'm learning mine. Those of you that were at family program, I'm learning my boundaries. So, okay, what I did last year, I don't do today, just so you know.
Yeah, it's gotten worse. Every relapse, sometimes she comes and sometimes she doesn't.
Sometimes I'm on the phone.
Right, that's a whole nother story. But, I would take care of the kids, and I would be like the homemaker, and Christina would go off to work. I think by this time I had been out, and I come back, and I go out, and I come back, and while I was out, I got pregnant. And I did not want this child. I wanted nothing to do with it. It was in my addiction. I was with some guy, and it was just an awful situation. But one thing I've always had, whether I'm using or not, is my spiritual, I'm spiritually centered in the sense that I know God exists, and I know that He's my protector, and I know that no matter how many times I walk away from Him, He never walks away from me. So I got pregnant. Why are you shaking your head, motherfucker? So I decided I'm going to have this baby. I really wanted nothing to do with it.
I wanted you to share just briefly about you do, because all the in and outs, and every time you would try to get clean, you would have these really psychotic episodes about having abortions and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I would tell you that those things are forgiven, but that was the way
they have, which I'm sure everybody knows. When you're on pills, and a lot of them, when you withdraw, you have these psychosis, and so I had quite a few, and that's why they kept Baker acting me, because they didn't know what to do with me. My mind was gone. So if anybody in here thinks their mind isn't repairable, I'm not all the way there, but I'm on my way. If you saw me a while back, you would just be like, what the fuck? You should never do drugs again. So yeah, she's talking about, so I had abortions done and everything like that, and I would have these I was hearing babies, I was just and I would call my sister saying stuff about my dad, and I would have her so crazy in the middle of the night that she probably thought she was crazy. She just had a baby too, but whatever.
No, I was saying that to say this is that that our spirit